Joe Flacco is out. Shedeur Sanders is in. That's not speculation, that's not rumor, that's the reality the Cleveland Browns have just stepped into. It's bold, it's risky, and it might define the entire season. For weeks, Cleveland leaned on Flacco's veteran presence, hoping age and experience would steady the mess. Instead, it's been ugly. Missed throws, panicked reads, stalled drives, and an offense stitched together like patchwork. If you've been following beyond the highlight reels, you know this story has been building. And now, Kevin Stefanski has finally pulled the trigger. The whispers aren't whispers anymore. The rookie era begins. This isn't some small mid-season tweak. This is a full-throttle statement. Stefanski just ripped off the safety net and handed the franchise keys to a 22-year-old kid carrying one of the heaviest names in football. Because Shedeur isn't just another rookie. He's Deion coach Prime Sanders' son, the one who arrived with swagger, hype, and more cameras than most quarterbacks see in their entire careers. And now, that spotlight is cranked to maximum. The Browns aren't breaking him in against a soft opponent. They're tossing him into Lambeau against the Packers, a team that's built a reputation devouring rookie quarterbacks. So what does this really mean? It means Cleveland is desperate. This isn't about grooming talent. This isn't patience. This is survival mode. The Browns season is already circling the drain, and Stefanski knows his job won't survive another lifeless performance. So he's pushing every chip to the middle of the table, betting Sanders is the ace he's been waiting for. But the stakes are brutal. If Shedeur delivers, Stefanski looks like a genius who trusted his gut. If he flops, if the line collapses again, if rookie nerves hit hard under Lambeau lights, then it's not just Sanders under fire. It's Stefanski's career going up in flames. Nothing screams desperation louder than benching a Super Bowl winning veteran in Week 3. And yet, the buzz is undeniable. Fans sick of Flacco's misfires finally see hope. The locker room, starved for a spark, finally has something to rally around. Sanders brings energy. He brings attention. He brings the promise that maybe, just maybe, this team won't be stuck on the endless quarterback carousel forever. Flacco's brief and uninspired chapter is done. Shedeur Sanders is QB1 now. Cleveland has lit the fuse, and the entire NFL is waiting to see if this thing explodes in glory or disaster. But let's be real for a second, hope isn't a strategy. Yes, Shedeur's talented, smart, mobile, calm, and probably more poised than half that locker room. But he's still raw. He hasn't faced NFL-caliber defenses yet. He hasn't taken the full punishment behind a line. That leaks like a sieve. And now he's walking straight into the fire before October even arrives. That's not development. That's panic. And panic shows everywhere. Look at the scheme itself, it's a mess. Analysts have called it stale, vanilla, flat out unwatchable. Routes don't mesh. The run-pass balance is erratic. Third downs feel like a guessing game no one's winning. Flacco's inconsistency didn't help, but the truth is he was stuck running a playbook that looks like it was dusted off from 2014. No wonder the offense has been dragging. When your quarterback is visibly frustrated on the field, that's not just a bad sign. That's the siren blaring. And Flacco? He's been missing open guys, misreading defenses, looking completely cooked. Hard to watch doesn't even cover it, which brings us back to Sanders. Is he really the answer? Maybe one day. But handing him the reins this early just screams, we're out of ideas. Especially when Dillon Gabriel's name is also being thrown around like some magic fix, as if plugging in another rookie will suddenly solve everything. The truth is, the panic runs deeper than just the quarterback spot. The tension is thick across the roster. Coaches look stressed, the sideline feels off, and insiders are already whispering about sweeping changes if this thing keeps sliding. Got it, fire. You want this refreshed/reworded just like the last one, same length, same flow, same intensity, but brand new wording. Here's the refreshed draft. Let's not sugarcoat this, coaches don't survive seasons like this without something bordering on divine intervention. And that miracle isn't coming from shuffling quarterbacks like trading cards. Right now, Cleveland is trapped between chasing a fading playoff dream and pressing reset on a rebuild that feels overdue. That's the real story here. This isn't just about who lines up under center. It's about the Browns' identity. Are they still pretending to be contenders? Or are they leaning into the future and handing Shedeur Sanders the keys to a wreck that might break him before it builds him? It's a brutal no-win scenario. Play Shedeur too soon and you risk crushing his confidence. Stick with Flacco too long and you risk losing the younger guys in the locker room who are sick of cleaning up after vets running on fumes. Meanwhile, fans sit there watching the collapse in real time, wondering if the people in charge even know what they're doing. Because ownership has already drawn the line: if this team doesn't produce, someone's getting fired. GM, coaches, players, nobody's safe. That's why this decision isn't just about Week 4. It's about the Browns' future. If Shedeur flames out, if the offense stays broken, the fallout will be nuclear. So buckle up. This isn't just a quarterback swap. It's a franchise balancing on a cliff's edge. Joe Flacco's time is cooked. Shedeur Sanders might be too raw. And Kevin Stefanski? His clock is ticking, louder than the dog pound on third down. So what's your call? Is Sanders the savior or the setup for disaster? Drop it in the comments. And if you want more chaos from the NFL's weekly soap opera, make sure you hit subscribe, because let's be honest, this move doesn't scream confidence. It screams panic. You don't bench a Super Bowl winner after 3 weeks unless you're either dead certain your rookie is ready or absolutely terrified of staying the same. And Stefanski doesn't have time to be patient anymore. Every snap without a win shaves another thread off his job security. That's why this doesn't feel like faith in Sanders. It feels like fear. But sure, let's play the optimist for a second. Let's imagine Shedeur walks into Lambeau unfazed, slicing up the Packers' defense like he's been in the league a decade. Let's imagine that primetime DNA takes over and he shocks the world. Possible? Sure. But likely? Different story. This isn't Boulder anymore. This isn't the Pac-12. This is the NFL. This is Lambeau Field, where rookie quarterbacks go to get humbled. Sanders hasn't taken a single NFL hit yet, not one. And you better believe the Packers' front seven is drooling at the thought of introducing him to the big leagues with a few welcome shots to the ribs. Add in a Cleveland O-line that's been leaking like a busted pipe, and unless Sanders has teleportation in his skill set, he's going down. A lot. Which begs the biggest question: why now? What happened behind closed doors that forced the panic button this early? Did Stefanski lose the locker room? Was Flacco that checked out? Did Sanders flash in one scrimmage and suddenly everyone forgot the last time Cleveland rushed a young QB into the fire? You know the one. Johnny Manziel's ghost still haunts these hallways. That's Cleveland's curse, the obsession with finding the guy so quickly that they sabotage their own chances. Quarterback speed dating never works, but the Browns can't seem to stop themselves, and maybe, just maybe, the problem isn't the quarterback at all. Maybe it's the system. Maybe it's the culture. Maybe it's the refusal to adapt. Drop Patrick Mahomes into this offense and even he'd be staring at the sideline by the third quarter asking, "What are we doing here?" The scheme is predictable, slow, and broken. And Sanders, no matter how confident, isn't fixing that overnight. So what happens if he struggles? Browns lose big, Sanders throws picks, the offense implodes. Do you run back to Flacco like nothing happened? Do you throw Dylan Gabriel into the fire too? Congratulations, now you've got a three-headed QB circus and no way out. Once you break stability, there's no gluing it back together. Players feel that chaos. Veterans check out. Young guys stop believing. Locker rooms fracture. And once that happens, the season isn't just lost, the team is. Reports are already swirling about coaching changes if things don't flip soon. Not just Stefanski. Coordinators, assistants, everyone's under the microscope. Ownership is watching every snap, every sideline argument, every awkward post-game press conference. Everyone's watching to see if this team steadies itself or buckles under the chaos it created. What's maddening is it didn't need to spiral this way. They could have bought themselves breathing room. Let Flacco squeeze out a few more starts, simplify the calls, lean heavier on the ground game. Instead, they reached for the shiny headline. The splash move. It's like swapping captains mid-flight because first class ran out of pretzels. Sure, maybe Stefanski steals a few weeks of job security from this, maybe ownership mistakes it for bold strategy instead of desperation. But unless wins follow, it doesn't matter who's under center. The clock's still ticking. And look, the Shedeur buzz exists for good reason. He's polished. Calm. Accurate. He's got swagger, footwork, a name that sells headlines, and a built-in storyline. But thriving in college doesn't guarantee Sundays will bend the same way. Without the right structure, talent gets swallowed. Just ask the long list of Browns QBs who never made it past promising. This organization has turned potential into cautionary tales for over a decade. You want Sanders to succeed. You want him to be the answer. But handled like this, it reeks of another setup for failure. Here's the wrinkle: what if he does ball out? What if Sanders lights up the field right away? Then what's Flacco's role? Where does Dylan Gabriel fit? And when Sanders inevitably has an off week? Do they sit him down, too? That's the issue with franchises that move without a map. It's all patch jobs and headlines. They aren't building toward anything. They're reacting, putting out fires. And that's why it's exhausting. Fans don't need another Instagram-ready savior. They need direction. They need execution. Not duct tape and rookie prayers. So here we are waiting to see if Sanders can drive a franchise through a minefield without blowing up. Because if he stumbles, if the Browns lose again, if the offense stays lifeless, this season is ash. The reset won't be optional, it'll be mandatory. New coaches, new blueprint, maybe another new QB. Cleveland's greatest tradition, déjà vu with a different jersey. Of course, maybe Sanders breaks the cycle. Maybe he becomes the jolt this roster has been begging for. Or maybe we're just watching the rerun in sharper resolution, and don't overlook Flacco in all this. He's not just fading away like some clipboard holder. This man once stood on the biggest stage with the biggest trophy. He came to Cleveland believing he had more left, not to serve as babysitter for a rebuild. Too old to be the future, too proud to be a backup, too flawed to keep the role, too seasoned to be ignored. You better believe this stings. Whatever front he puts up at the podium, this is bruising. And if Sanders doesn't change the outcome, Flacco will be standing there like, so we tore the locker room apart for this? Because this isn't just about pride. These kinds of calls ripple. Veterans start second-guessing the coaches. Younger players split into camps. Some hype Sanders, others stick with Flacco, the steady, if imperfect, hand. Meanwhile, the staff scrambles to sell it as strategy when it's just survival. This isn't chess. It's checkers with broken pieces. Rearranging chairs on a sinking ship, hoping the optics buy time. And then there's Gabriel. The third variable in this chaos equation. The just-in-case card. Young, restless, waiting for both Sanders and Flacco to trip so he can become the next answer. But this isn't development, it's survival games in helmets. The Browns don't nurture. They test who breaks last. That's not culture, that's chaos. And sure, it fuels Twitter, but it's a terrible way to run a team. The irony? They aren't far from competitive. The defense holds. Special teams hasn't imploded. There's legit playoff-level talent on this roster. But the endless quarterback shuffle, the lack of vision, that's the anchor pulling them under. A few tweaks could stabilize things. Instead, they keep lighting flares screaming, "New quarterback," as though that alone fixes broken schemes. Fans aren't fooled. The fatigue is everywhere, on radio, on message boards, in group chats. Cleveland's heard the speeches. They've lived the rinse-repeat cycle. New face, same ending. Here's a refreshed version of that piece you just dropped, same length, same rhythm, same intensity, but reworded so it hits fresh without losing any of the punch. It feels inevitable. Not in that fun, could he be the next star? Kind of way, but in the exhausted here we go again kind of way. Another quarterback roll of the dice. Another coaching move made in panic. Another season swaying on the edge of collapse. And the ugly truth? Sanders might not even flop. But if everything around him is already rotting, it won't matter. Because this isn't about a single game. It's about momentum. Consistency. About whether this franchise can finally raise a young quarterback properly instead of tossing him into the fire, then acting shocked when he burns. And if I sound dramatic, good. Because this is dramatic. This is high-stakes football theater, where every call echoes, and every mistake sticks to a legacy. We're watching the Browns rinse and repeat the cycle they've lived in for decades. Only now, it's crystal clear 4K, with everyone already betting which week Stefanski's headset gets taken away. Let's not sugarcoat it, Stefanski's coaching like a man who knows he's one step from security escort duty. The nervous body language, the timid play designs, the empty press conference cliches, it all reeks of desperation. And once fear drives the choices instead of vision, that's when the whole thing collapses. Sure, maybe Sanders sparks magic this weekend. Maybe he stands tall, keeps drives alive, and finds the end zone. Maybe he proves he's not just Deion's kid, but a weapon all his own. But if he doesn't? If the Packers' defense clamps down, if the calls stay stale, if the offense stays lifeless? Then this entire stunt buys Cleveland nothing but headlines and heartburn. And next week, we'll be right back here, recycling the same questions. Who's starting? Who's failing? What now? And really, that's the crux. What now? Do the Browns double down on the youth movement and force the Sanders era no matter how messy? Do they scramble to resurrect Flacco with some miracle comeback arc? Or do they torch it all, start the coaching search early, and admit this year is already lost? There's no neat fix. Just a roster staring down its own dysfunction, hoping against reason that this time the story changes. But history's handwriting says otherwise. History says Cleveland cycles through quarterbacks like the seasons. Promising players get swallowed by bad timing and worse leadership. Fans keep showing up, praying for hope, only to watch it flicker out before winter sets in, and yet, hope never dies. That irrational, stubborn spark still hangs in the air. Maybe Sanders is the guy. Maybe the roster rallies. Maybe, for once, the chaos creates clarity. Football's strange like that. Sometimes a rookie gets forged into a star by fire. Sometimes the desperate move becomes the breakthrough. But until it happens, we're watching a franchise dangle off the edge. A coach trying to survive. A rookie fighting to prove he belongs. A veteran refusing to fade quietly. And a fan base clinging to the sliver that maybe, just maybe, this time the blaze won't consume it all. So buckle up, the Browns' quarterback roller coaster is climbing again. Now picture this, Sanders wins a game, maybe even two. You know what comes next. The hype machine goes berserk. ESPN highlight packages with dramatic soundtracks. Narratives about how Deion sculpted his son for this moment. Lazy comparisons to Lamar, to Stroud, to every electric young QB who ever lit a spark. And suddenly, the same Browns who looked like a demolition project a week ago are whispering playoffs. Stefanski will flash that smug "I told you so" grin at the podium, pretending this was all calculated. As if yanking your veteran 3 games in isn't football's equivalent of panic paint over rotting wood. But the real trap isn't in the winning. It's in what follows the first stumble. Because it's coming. Every rookie has it. The second Sanders throws up a dud, the chatter starts, was it a fluke? Is he ready? Should Gabriel get a look? That's how quarterback purgatory begins, one off week, and the carousel spins again. And suddenly, Sanders is just another 21-year-old tossed into the grinder, dissected on every throw, criticized on every miss, judged not as a rookie but as a savior who didn't deliver fast enough. This isn't just pressure. This is identity-altering, career-defining weight. And Cleveland has broken far more quarterbacks than it has built. So yes, there's promise. Yes, there's buzz. Yes, there's hope. But don't mistake it for a strategy. Hope isn't a playbook. Desperation isn't a rebuild. This isn't some genius long-term design. This is a franchise in flames, handing a rookie the extinguisher and saying, "Good luck, kid.so." If you're watching, whether you're a fan, a skeptic, or just someone addicted to beautiful sports chaos, settle in. Because this isn't just another QB change. This is a Cleveland storyline. And Cleveland storylines don't end neatly. They twist, they unravel. They implode. And we're all front row for the chaos. So whether you're clinging to that last thread of optimism or just soaking in the spectacle like it's your favorite guilty pleasure binge, drop your take in the comments. Is Shedeur really the savior Cleveland's been waiting for, or just the next name added to the long list of heartbreaks? And while you're at it, make sure you hit subscribe, because in the NFL, some franchises just play the game, and others turn every season into must-watch drama. Cleveland? You already know which one you are.